Warning, the friggin' truth is what every girl needs to know in her 20s. It's The Real by Nina, a full holy grail rundown of love, sex, dating, and health mantras every woman should live by. Grab your free copy by visiting www.ninababel.com/the friggin' truth. This week is episode number 2. Sup, girlies? Thanks for listening and joining me today. Welcome to the Keep It 100 Girl podcast. I'm your host, Nina Babel, YouTuber, author, girlpreneur, and speaker. You can connect with me online on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at Nina Babel, or just connect with me on www.ninababel.com. You know how I do. I keep it real, and ladies, I keep it, that's right, true. This show is dedicated to empowering women of all ages. From women who don't know your worth or even your power throughout your entire life. Well, I'm going to talk about cool, relatable TMI moments that happen to us all on a regular basis. Going back, starting from puberty right down to the M train. Real women, they're going to give their real mother friggin' advice. This podcast will be a woman's handbook full of self-care mantras dedicated to all my girlies who are too shy, nervy, or embarrassed to ask all those sensitive questions about love, sex, dating, or even your sexual health. I'm going to give you that muscle power to make informed decisions in real life with confidence. And you know what? You're going to understand your body a whole lot better when I'm done. By the end of this giant sleepover, I want you to say this: OMG, that's so me. That's totally her. I want you to laugh. I want you to think of this as something that's totally relatable. So then what makes me different? Well, I want you to think of me as your go-to girlfriend. Girlfriends celebrate embarrassment. We laugh at it. But I use a sassy but classy TMI approach, and I know for some of you, you're going to feel embarrassed or even exposed because my segments are unfiltered. But we're going to have fun. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And for you prudish ones, the ones that find it disgusting when all girls talk out loud about their experiences, because oftentimes you feel like these things should be kept private or between friends and not publicized. Sadly enough, the majority of women, that's why we feel embarrassed, because we feel like we shouldn't talk out loud. But I'm going to tap into what you're thinking and not saying out loud. I want to change that mindset. You know, this is a generation that has a lot of negative influences, right? I grew up in a generation with no internet, no mobile phone, and no apps to control my life or how I think or how I talk or what I say or how I date. So I'm going to add humor to the basics that most of us already know, but don't do a good job of following. I'm going to pump up the jams, pump it up with real life personal stories. Honey, we got all of those. In addition to my own experiences, I have real women. I have experts that are going to give their mother freaking advice. They're all going to express their personal bloopers when it comes to sensitive girly stuff. Come on, you know, all those conversations you already have with your girlfriends on a daily, they're going to happen right here. We, myself included, we're going to celebrate embarrassment by telling the whole truth. Nothing but the truth, even if it's totally embarrassing or super cray-cray. My hand is raised. How about you? Are you ready for the whole truth and nothing but the truth? You're listening to the Keep It 100 Girls Show with Nina Babel. I keep it 100, I keep it real and true. I'm not one size fits all either, and neither are my stories. Real women, real advice. This podcast is based on my upcoming book theme, What Your Mother Didn't Tell You, But Your Girlfriend Did. For more information, head over to ninababel.com where you can check out all my juice going on my website and get to know me a little better through my blogs, pictures, posts. So much fun. Got a question, comment, or feedback? Then DM me. Follow me at Nina Babel on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. One rule of my podcast is we overshare. And you're going to learn again what women are thinking, but they're not saying out loud. I celebrate the shame and embarrassing moments of being a woman. I mean, don't be weirded out either. There's no sick factor to it or nothing to be grossed out about or ashamed of. It just takes the education and the conversations. The more we converse about it at all stages and ages, trust me, this stigma will eventually fade away. I will say this though, these are the rules. Do not judge me or the women featured on this podcast for all the natural things that happens to every girl becoming a woman or just being a woman in general. There's no shame to our game. I hope my podcast will help you grow out of that shame, that embarrassment, that unfortunately that some of us have for ourselves. In last week's episode, we called on Girl Circle Nation to the belly pulpit. In case you missed them, we were talking about all different kinds of pooches, ranging from my pooch obsessions and their own experiences. So go back and check out episode number 1. Which brings me to today's episode. Welcome, Girl Circle Nation. Today's topic is sticky and gross. And I'm going to put the beats alert out there. Make sure you have your beats on. And the reason why is because what I'm going to talk about falls under TMI, ladies. And remember when I was talking about my brand back at the intro episode and I mentioned like one of my brands is that poom poom maintenance category? Yeah, we're going there. But it's just another reminder that, what we learn in sex ed doesn't register as we're growing up because it's long forgotten until it becomes a necessity. Honestly, I only started really putting the puzzle pieces together as my own clock was ticking away. Or when things just started getting out of whack in my 30s. Women just don't either pay attention to what's sticky and gross until we have to, or we just flat out ignore it, we keep it moving, or most of us just don't know what's normal versus what's not. So one of the problems is sex education, right? Whether it's in the home or school. And there is a difference between the two and even real life. Sex education in school is completely sterile. And oftentimes people look at it as one of those check in the box credits. It's the same curriculum year after year, plus or minus a few things. But my experience, I went to Catholic school. And in fact, I even had an ex-nun teaching health class. I mean, need I say more? Back then and even now, all they dished about was abstinence, condoms, and STDs, I think. I mean, that's all like my mind can remember. But today, modern sex has evolved. It's multiplied exponentially into many different meanings and categories for women. And if you had to compare back then and now, it probably existed then, but it's brought to the forefront now. And in real life, as I'm talking to more and more women, it's become totally apparent that women don't get the sex talk. And I'm talking like generation after generation. I mean, I've interviewed and spoken to close to 200 women, and I'm going to tell you guys, 80% of them didn't receive the sex talk. Most of them learned about sex or their sexual health from girlfriends. It was girlfriends, the internet, Google was everybody's sister. Sometimes it was church, believe it or not. And sometimes they were just self-taught from reading a book. It's real easy for one girlfriend to explain to another girlfriend using our own terms, right? What's happening inside our bodies, minus all the medical yak. We're talking girlfriend to girlfriend here. So once we've officially become, naturalized into womanhood, and I'm referring to our period. I mean, that really is the trigger for us to consider ourselves officially a woman. But getting our period makes us go, ew, right? So now I'm going to break down the meaning of sticky and gross that every woman listening can identify with at one point during her life. So let's pull back the curtain for a sec and talk about some sticky and gross stuff that happens in our underwear. Yeah, I'm going there. And for you prim and proper types listening, I see you're still on. I'm about to dial it up now, so you better put on those headphones or your Beats. So some women, they will always consider periods as gross, along with other bodily functions that don't deserve to be announced in front of anyone because it's embarrassing. Does poom poom, gook, gush, sticky, boing, icky, glob, and trickling sound familiar? Something that you could relate to but never dared to share it with anyone? Well, we're going to go way back. We're going to go back to pubers. That's puberty. I mean, my own journey started at 13. I mean, it brings back the memories of waking up with my eyes wide open by a bloody, gooey mess gushing down my leg in slow-mo. Not to mention the little tinglings that were happening, otherwise known as cramps. Thankfully, thank goodness, it was a school holiday because every girl has the fear of embarrassing accidents. And it doesn't stop at every girl. I mean, women have this fear until their last drop. But I say that because when you grow up and people go back to reunions or they talk about back in school, in high school, they remember who got their period in school. Trust. I slowly lifted up the bedsheet to see this brownish, reddish color blood running down my inner thigh. I reached for the phone immediately and I called my mom at work. And my mom was one of those women who just didn't like to talk on the phone or take a personal call at work. So I knew whatever I had to say, it had to be quick and short. Mom, I'm bleeding now.
Oh, you're a woman.
Okay.
Go in the closet and get some Stay Freeze.
If you're a Gen Xer like I am, you can appreciate this because these pads were the worst experience for any girl growing up. Literally, it felt like a padded diaper wedged between your legs. And if you didn't change them on time, it felt like a crusty Brillo pad scraping your skin.
What was the charm bracelet for? What was the significance? Was that to let everybody else know that?
It's the womanhood, so it's
okay.
I guess in our family you give a gift.
That's so cute. You guys are staying like I'm Kotex. Kotex. That was the only brand, the only thing. And I won't even tell you how disgusting the process was to prepare for your period. You didn't have adhesive.
Back in the day.
No, you did not.
It was a belt, wasn't it?
It was a belt.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did find a belt, but I just didn't know what to
But thank God I was a cheerleader. And I learned about tampons from my girlfriend. And I was like, I cannot do this thing. What did you call it? I called it a diaper.
Pillow.
A pillow. I called it a diaper. I was like, oh, this is disgusting. I can't cheer like this. And, that first year, I didn't flip. I wouldn't flip if I was on my period. So you knew they were waiting for me to go. And I'm like, no, I'm not flipping. Next game, maybe, but I'm not flipping right now. That was this diaper. And I learned, and then my school colors were red and white, so I had no choice. And some of my we call them lollipops. The pants, the bloomers under your skirts were white. You depended on what skirt you wore. I'm definitely not flipping tonight. I got on white bloomers,
Meanwhile, I had no idea what was going on internally upon my entry into these dancing tribes of womanhood. My mind raced back to the birds and the bees talk from when I was 8 years old, and I just felt like I was searching for a matching sock in the sock drawer. Like I just couldn't put all the pieces together. Seriously, nothing, no flashbacks. Everything sounded like Charlie Brown. So that was like our first period experience, or mine. Let's talk about periods in general. In the context of sticky and gross, periods are gross, but they're natural. It's messy and it hurts. We all will agree. But it's funny to see how sensitized we become by categorizing these symptoms and how we refer to them as like a drip drop compared to a gush, a gushy feeling, if you know what I mean. The unexpected drippity drops are always about the first warning, right? The warning is to take heed and get some supplies because your period is thinking about starting. And sometimes we have these false alarms and we end up wearing a liner or a pad and it either dries the hell out of our poom poom and the crunchiness of it makes us itch. Other times we don't have any warning, right? It came early, it came unexpectedly, and you would swear someone just sounded the fire alarm as you discreetly get up in shock and trek your way to the bathroom, starting off in a tippy-toe to a Usain Bolt Olympic run. Not even run. This is record-breaking run to the restroom before we experience another gookie gush bound to ruin our clothes and be the most embarrassing PSA to your colleagues, your classmates, your friends, or even just strangers. In fact, true story. One day I was on my way to Costco and I'm sitting in the car and I'm wearing this like nice yellow kind of fluorescent, not like bright, but this kind of taurine colored dress. I was feeling good. It was a hot day. And all of a sudden, I felt like this gush and I dismissed it. I was like, no, because I literally just left the house and it's like it had a mind of its own. Then I felt something else and I was like, it wasn't supposed to come. So what is it that's going on? And then, I make my way into the entrance of Costco. Then this woman runs up to me and she's like, I know that if this was happening to me, that I would want to be told. She goes, you have a blood stain on your dress. And I was like, oh my God. I said, is it big? Is it small? She goes, it's not that big, but I just wanted to tell you. And I was like, please walk behind me to my car because I'm going to go straight home. Lo and behold, it wasn't major, but it was enough to make it embarrassing. And thank God, sister girl was my guardian angel that day and had the nerve to tell me. But then there's sleep mode, okay? When you're awakened by that nighttime leakage, it's that blood seeping in between your underwear onto your nice sheets or even your mattress. Then you get up out of panic, like you wake up out of your REM to ensure you don't have all those Japanese flags on your bed. And if you do, you pull out what I call that period towel where you dip it in cold water and get that bottle of Shout and just wipe down the place to get out the stains. Do you suffer from period pain each month but prefer using natural alternatives over prescription drugs? Don't let your period pain get to you. Grab your free 15-minute period remedies handbook. 5 natural, easy pick-me-up remedies that just takes 15 minutes. You will receive a shopping list, 5 recipes, directions for each remedy, along with some foods to avoid. Say yes to this 15-minute routine in 2016. So now we're going to move on to another element of periods, and that's period sex. Some women would consider this both sticky and gross factor. There are women out there, people, that are total nymphos and are super horned up while they're on their period. Some women would argue that it eases their cramp pain. Well, good for them. And this is the time when your man, your boo, your hubby, they will normalize anal sex more over period sex. They will. Because some guys don't care. When they see your boobs getting bigger and your noticeable booty growth, they look forward to your periods. They just lay the towel down and enjoy that natural lube. And some would argue that period sex is not even significantly messier than usual sex. It's all sweaty, messy, and sticky, or even gross, no matter what. So oftentimes, guys are going to opt for that handy excuse while you're on your period to go to that wrong hole, especially if it's something that they're used to doing. Then you have the rest of the population who just opts not to do either. Some guys are totally grossed out by period blood and they don't want their penis looking like a murder weapon. So please tell them in advance, especially if they're planning on doing something down south. Moving on to more womanly functions like ovulation. Ovulation, if you haven't realized, is sticky, but not gross. Because ovulation is the precursor to releasing your egg every month. Did you know that? Unless you're on birth control, because that stops the whole process. I hope you knew that too. And this typically happens on day 12 through 16 of your 28-day cycle. Assuming you have a regular cycle, the sticky test signals the most fertile period for every woman each month. In my own personal story, it wasn't until my 30s that my girlfriend who was trying to have a baby schooled me on the whole thing, from timing to what's in your underwear during that time. And I was like, I knew I had seen it, but could never make sense of it. And I'll talk about the it in a few minutes. But then I was thinking back to when I was in college, and I remember vividly. Every month, it felt like I was going from the 100th floor of a building to floor number 1. And I would hold my stomach and hold my breath for like 2-3 seconds until it was over. And finally, I described this to my girlfriend's older sister, like, oh my God, it's happening again. And I would hold and embrace my stomach. And she's like looking at me like, girl, you're ovulating. And I was like, oh. So just kind of as my own personal mission, I said, let me ask around and see how many women know when they're ovulating, whether I asked them or asked them if they felt the way I did. And I would get this deer in a headlight look like, no, they don't even know when this monthly event even happens. And that's the thing, right? We live in a society that only cares about these things until it affects us. When we're looking to have children, or we're looking maybe to do IVF, that's really when we care about it or pay attention. So remember the it I was referring to? During this time, you're going to notice a clear, milky, eggy white discharge on your underwear. And if you actually scoop a little bit up and place it in between your fingers, you're going to notice that joint has some elasticity. Yeah, sperm loves this. And in fact, it's the ocean they swim in to find and hunt down that egg. So be careful on day 12 through 16, especially if you're not on birth control or if you're trying to get pregnant, then you care about those days. So as part of my YouTube series, I ask college women what days of the month a woman ovulates. Meaning, what days of the month is your egg released? So it's time to switch it over to Girl Circle Nation, and here's some of their responses.
That whole ovulation discharge, that didn't start for me until I turned 40. I was like, I went to the doctor. I was like, what is this? It's coming out. Like, what is this? Yeah. I was like, I have to wear like a panty liner a week before my cycle. And so actually, this particular time I was seeing the midwife in the practice, and I wear a Marina, and she was giving me a new one, right? And I said, what is it? She was like, oh, yeah. Yep, you're going to have that one for a little while. She was like, so when you see this, and I said, sometimes it's like a white, and then other time it looks like mucus. And then she was like, so the white, that's the ovulation. I was like, okay, I read a long time ago that I was supposed to see that. I haven't seen it. Now it's showing up that when I'm 40, I don't understand that.
So out of all the women, 2 knew the correct answer. No fault of their own. But it just validates my point earlier about the whole sex ed thing, because it takes me back and reminds me of when I was in college. I had no idea. And chances are that some of you're going to lose your virginity or you've already lost it in college. And these are the essential birth control basics that even your gyno may not tell you on your first trip. Period smells. Period smells are gross, and sometimes it'll just make you hurl because women just don't know how to clean their cha-cha. They just don't. Yeah, you heard me right. You know, there's some dogs out there that are just rude crotch sniffers. So if you see a dog sniffing a girl's cha-cha, you're going to be discovered. But listen up to what this girl's circle had to say about that, because you know every woman has a story to tell.
Talk about old school. So when I had first started, and I had my parents ship me to Birmingham, Alabama to spend one summer with my great-grandparents. So my grandmother, the first day that I started, she came to the bathroom and knocked on the door, and she gave me a stack of newspaper because she wanted me to wrap. Okay, so whatever. So then that night, one of my cousins that lived down there, I wanted to spend the night with her, and she just did not want me to go. And I just threw a fit because it was just she and my grandfather. So why couldn't I go and be with like other kids, right? So I went over there, and so the next morning, I was in the shower, and when I got out of the shower, my auntie said, Mother, that's what we call my great-grandmother, Mother wants you to call her. She's very upset with you because she said that she told you that you can't take a shower for at least 7 days. I was like, what? So I mean, and I remember her giving me my stack of newspaper and telling me to put it in my luggage, but I don't remember her telling me I could take a shower. So it was just this big thing.
Did she say why?
No, we never talked about it. I just kind of got scolded about it later. But I mean,
Well, you were supposed to take a bath?
No, you're not supposed to when you're on your cycle.
You're not supposed to bathe.
That's what her belief was. You're not supposed to bathe. You're not supposed to do. I don't know why. You're not supposed to do anything. But because
you're losing blood.
You might pass out.
I have no idea.
Can't stand up in hot water. What? You might pass out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I don't know about that one.
Wouldn't you smell like?
Actually, you do. I was going to say that I remember having one of my college roommates, like around the time of her cycle, I remembered her always going into the shower. I heard the water, and I remember telling my other girlfriends, like, oh my God, like there are certain days of the month she just like stinks.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all the time.
And it was
but
just,
now it makes sense. She
I
was
still don't know
probably
why.
not
I still don't know
showering.
what.
Now
So she
I
would just
heard
cut the
not to.
water
I heard not to get in the tub.
And see, I heard that.
I heard that. Like
Yeah.
you have to shower. You
Shower
can't get
as
in the-
opposed to sitting in the tub. Yeah.
Mhm.
They didn't tell you why. You
Yeah.
just weren't supposed
You
to.
just don't do it. You just don't do it.
And you
Right.
were like, you know, I started at 13, and I'm like, okay. Okay. I just didn't, and we didn't have a shower, so I'm little enough to know how to bathe over the spigot, you know, and just, I was small enough to just, wash up, you know, and I was like, this makes no sense.
I know.
But you know what makes sense? Like there's times as an adult I've gone into like a public bathroom and I can smell the person who's been there before.
Yes.
You know they
You
were
know
on
if
their
a woman is
cycle.
menstruating, right?
And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, how can someone let themselves go?
But sometimes it's just the
It's just your
It's
sense.
just-
it's the scent of the, you know. that
No, but I think
excretes
it's
the
coupled
excrement.
with not showering and a whole host of there's
Issues.
always going to be some tinge of a scent,
Right.
but you can tell like early in the
It's-
morning you go in after. I'm like early in the morning you should not smell. I'm sorry, unless you're just waking out of your own bed and going into your bathroom, whatever. But you come to
out
work.
in public.
Yeah, when you come to work.
Yeah.
Unless something else is going on there.
Exactly.
There was this
Little
girl
old me, I'm sorry.
that worked with us, and she had one, and she had an infection in it. And
That's what I thought.
That's what it can cause that. Yeah,
her
some people
behind
aren't clean
was
like
so
that. Some people don't.
funky. I was like, you know how I am. You know how I am.
Stop.
I just was like, babe, you need to get that checked. She was like, what? I was like, you know what? I had to tell her because I couldn't take it. I had to work next to her. I'm sorry, I don't want to smell
Was
you.
it fishy? Like
It was beyond fishy. It was just like all of her just stunk, just everywhere. She
That
was
ain't good.
nasty. And she was telling everybody she had an IUD. And I'm like,
You don't tell everybody.
just tell everybody.
Okay, this is probably off the wall, but I have to ask. Is your period supposed to stink?
No.
So, and the reason why I asked this question is because, and maybe it's more related to hygiene, but there are instances where you would go into a bathroom stall
And literally, I can smell the woman that has been there before me. And it smells like her period.
Never smelling something smell then.
Yeah.
If they leave a pad, I guess the bilirubin and the oxygen in the oxygen in the air oxidizes the blood. And so it gives that smell. So if they left the pad, you can smell it sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay.
So it's blood and oxygen, it's a chemical process there. Once it gets exposed, that's when you start to smell it. But typically, if you have a pad and you wear it and you don't expose it to the air, go in between it and go and urinate and then use the same pad, nobody can smell it on you.
Right.
But once you expose it to the air, then people can smell it. And so then that smell will still be on you. So really the way to avoid that is to change every time you go to the bathroom.
Okay, good tip.
What's gross is remembering being in school or work and smelling some girls wearing pads. And granted, at that age, they probably lacked some hygiene knowledge, but I made it a point to myself that I never, ever want to smell like that. And that's why most women want nothing to do with pads. They will tell you up front it feels like diapers, and tampons or menstrual cups are so much easier and makes them feel cleaner.
I hated pads with a passion. But I remember I had just came from cheerleading practice, and it had happened earlier in the day, and I just came downstairs and was like, Mom, there's blood in my panties. And I just walked out of the kitchen, and it was a wrap from then. Because I knew what it was, but I wasn't sure. Because, when it just, drops, and then it's not, bright red, and I thought it was going to be, this big event, and it was kind of, just... So I just said it. I just stopped her like this, and then I walked out, and I didn't say anything else about it until maybe after a year, and I wanted to wear tampons because I had older cousins, and I was I didn't like pads at all. I just hated them, and she would never let me wear them, but she never explained to me why.
Top syndrome.
Yeah, so I started doing my own research and Googling and stuff, but I still was with it. So one day I was like, oh, we're going to the pool, so I have to have them. And this was probably a year after begging for them, and so finally I got them. But she didn't ever explain to me why I couldn't use tampons, what to do with them, how they worked, or.
But what's even worse is you would even go in the bathroom stall and you would smell these women or the whiff that they left behind. Heavy bleeders. Well, I have to include myself in this section because for us heavy bleeders, it's a total self-conscious and miserable feeling that could put growth on display. It could be a mess in your pants or worse, outside of them. I hate it when it ruins my cutesy underwear or, the new ones that you bought and you took out of the laundry and you're just so anxious to wear or show your boo. Bleeding heavily each month means that we're fatigued to the max, or there's just an underlying health condition that we need to pay attention to. I mean, it's normal on day 1 or 2 to be heavy, but 5 to 7 days of solid bleeding or changing your tampon or pad every 2 hours or bleeding half of the month is definitely worth checking into with your OBGYN. My rule of thumb is this. If your period is substantially affecting your quality of life, something is wrong, ladies. Your body gives you warning signals all the time. Listen to them. And my story is this. My period was always routine. By the book, 1 and done in 5 days. Loved it. I always prided myself in having an uneventful, easy breezy period. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm in that perimenopause phase, but it has a mind of its own. It's definitely a mood, energy killer thing now. I was never a heavy bleeder up until 3 years ago when I learned I had fibroids. And I refused to have the surgery, but now I understand what it means to stay home or plan to be home, especially on day 2, because it's embarrassing. I mean, one time I thought my period was over, then I dress according to my period. And that day I was even wearing these light gray pants. It was a pantsuit. That's what it was. And I ran to the bathroom thinking, what the fuck am I gonna do? Because my period came back with a vengeance. How do I leave the building without all eyes on my deck? I mean, thankfully, the reception had a black cardigan, which I was able to use and wrap around my waist, and I stormed my ass home. Clothes need to be period proof. You have a bunch of clothes in your panty drawer to your closet that are all set aside as period panties to period clothes. And that just means black in my book. This story, though, brings it home, so take a listen.
And then, but when my period actually starts, it's like raining down. I have to use like the Super Plus and change it like every hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then day 2, I might go down to Super maybe, but I'm still changing it frequently. Day 3, it's like, all right, peace. Right. I'm like, how do we go from all to nothing? Where did this come from?
Right.
And then I'm still not done because it's spotting. I want to be done. I feel like it's a 2-week process for me now, and it used to be 3 to 5 days. In and out, done. Now I got discharge and heavy flow and then trickling spotting. I'm just spotting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's uncomfortable. I mean, I'm like, I don't want to wear something for half the month.
Right.
So what's totally gross about fibroids is the blobs and clots of estrogen that comes out of your pum-pum. It's frightening. It feels like cubes of Jell-O exiting your body or mad gushes of Niagara Falls. No lie. So in order to minimize that, I've really changed my diet. So I'm eating or taking supplements to counteract or get rid of that unwanted estrogen, that estrogen dominance that's going on internally.
Nina's purpose is to empower women to celebrate women's embarrassing moments. If you're too shy, nervous, or embarrassed to ask about sensitive girly stuff, you're in the right place.
All right, we got a few more, so hang in there. Yeast infections. So yeast infections are sticky and gross because you know when you have a yeast infection, it feels like your lady parts, they're being attacked by razor blades. You know what I mean? You have an angry labia. It itches and burns like crazy, which all leads to soreness or this burning sensation. Like you have this like sunburned look in your pum-pum because you've itched it too much. So don't wear light colored underwear, because you're going to bleed after doing all that scratching, or even if you got nails. So with a yeast infection, you see discharge, and it looks like this white cottage cheese clumps in your underwear. And even though summer is prime time for infections because we're wearing a bathing suit, perhaps we're working out more and staying in our sweaty clothes a little longer, or we're just wearing tighter clothing. But we need to be clear. All women have yeast cells, everything from pregnancy, rising estrogen levels due to birth control, scented soaps, scented sanitary products, your hygiene, eating too much sugary foods, and lastly, antibiotics cause the number of yeast cells to rise. And I even have a girlfriend, I just learned this, who shoves a probiotic tablet in her vag as a preventative measure to kill off any chances of developing a yeast infection or just to promote good bacteria in her pum-pum. And for the naturalistas in the house, here's the natural remedy. You could eat yogurt, or you simply dip a tampon in like Greek yogurt, like a plain yogurt, and insert it in your pum-pum as a natural alternative. I've heard about crushed garlic. I don't think I'll go there because it's kind of smelly, but you have apple cider vinegar, cranberry juice, rubbing extra virgin olive oil, or even coconut oil helps alleviate some of the burning sensation symptoms. Now, we're all different and one size doesn't fit all, so make sure you patch test or try things out carefully just to avoid any allergic type reactions. Period wedgies. You know what I'm talking about. For those of you who have never waxed before, you know about that crusty blood sticking to your pubes. Not only just your pubes, but also to the pad. It's like pulling a Band-Aid off your hairy arm, right? And oh man, I put on a liner on shitty the other day. I folded the front part up and expose the sticky part to my poom poom. And I'm walking along and it's like tugging at my pubes. Man, I had to hightail it to the bathroom to fix that immediately. And then there was another time when I was running a little late one morning, and it was that time of the month. So I grab a pad, I unwrap it, and I shove it in my panties without looking because I was in a rush. And besides, these things are second nature. Like, you do it in your sleep. Then all of a sudden I realized, oh shit, I put this bitch on the wrong way. So like the adhesive part was totally sticking to my pubes. And yeah, that hurt. But I've learned my lesson. No matter how many times you've done it, always look before you stick. Oh, and I got another one for you. I know there's times where, like, you know, the pads with the wings, for some dumbass reason, I forgot to pull the adhesive and pull back the wings. So now that I have a piece of paper there, it doesn't absorb, it's blocking all the useful functions of a pad and just ends up making more of a mess. Have you done any of these things? Going to the gynecologist for the first time can freak out any girl. And I mean, you still get freaked out as a woman because you just don't know what to expect. There's a lot of sticking growth going on down there when it's your first time getting into stirrups and having a speculum drain your vaginal fluids. Oh, and it's not over there. Then you have an internal exam to follow. I've not been pregnant before, but I would imagine there's a whole lot more internal hand exams leading up to your actual birth. Wiping back to front. I know. The first thing that comes to your mind is like, what? I mean, what may be obvious to some of you is not to others. Remember, we're not all on the same level playing field. I know it's totally gross, right? But how can you even think about doing that or teaching your child that? But it happens. And it's more crucial in understanding how this very action triggers a UTI. That's a urinary tract infection, because it pushes all the bacteria from your ass to your vagina, your urethra, then up to your bladder. And I want you to listen to this woman from the Girl Circle on what her mother didn't tell her about wiping. This one is a head scratcher. So listen.
When I was young, and I even do this with my daughter, when I was young and I was potty training up until I learned how to go to the bathroom by myself, my mom never told me about which way to wipe. So I'd be like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it came to that point where you're like maybe 14 and I'm like, what is this discharge? What is going on? And so my mom, you know, we were in the bathroom somewhere and she's like, don't wipe that way. It's bad. And I didn't know what she was talking about. But then when you go to the doctor and you get this list of stuff that could cause, you know, infection, wiping the wrong way. And I'm like 15, 16, asking the doctor, like, how am I supposed to wipe? That can be taught at the age of 2 or 3 when you're potty trained. So when I'm in the bathroom with my daughter, I'm like, you reach behind and you wipe from front to back. Nobody told me that. I was 16 years old with an infection, didn't know where it was coming from. You know, they're just like, oh, do you wear cotton underwear? It's all these little, like, small little things when all you had to do is just change the way that you're wiping yourself.
Yep.
But my mom told me, but she didn't tell me in a way where I would know the results.
Poop smells. This one's absolutely gross. I mean, your shit don't stink means something in the bathroom too. There have been times you're in a public bathroom and someone lights up a stall and stinks up the entire bathroom. You know what I'm talking about. And the thing is, some women don't even realize their poop smells up the bathroom. Well, you have to have an internal gut issue going on. And you need to cleanse and detox that crap out, literally and figuratively speaking. And then there's sex, right? During sex, post-sex, has a lot of fluids that could be sticky and gross. It takes some getting used to his and her fluids when having sex. Don't forget, it also drips down our leg. You see white patches on the sheets, and the bed smells like a cocktail of joy juices. Sweat, semen, your female joy juices. Today I got TMI, didn't I? I told you, ladies, I warned you. We all want to take as much anxiety out of our lives and manage those sticky and gross situations that happen in and out of our underwear. Despite all the sticky and gross things we encounter as women, it's important to view our bodies as an asset rather than a liability. Know what's happening, why it's happening, and how to remedy the situation is key. Our poom-poom is a self-cleaning oven. When we manipulate it the wrong way, it can cause you grief. When your poom-poom is dry, slightly moist, or has room to breathe, it's a happy camper. Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast and found the content a little eye-opening. And I want you to like or share it with your friends. And what about you? Are you still terrified of any of these sticky and gross moments that I mentioned? Did I miss any? Then I want you to do 2 things. Thing number 1, reply to this post or send an email to ask@ninababel.com and tell me what you're struggling with right now. Even if it's something really, really small, don't hesitate. Thing number 2, that time of the month we all know is not so fun, but I'm here to help you show who's boss in today's 100 After Show. Get this handy download I'm calling Show Your Period Who's Boss by visiting ninababel.com/bonus. You'll get 5 ways to handle life when you're on your period. The period diet, which is one of my side projects to release in 2016. 5 must-have supplements every woman needs to live by. How to prepare for estrogen dominance, and 5 monthly natural period remedies. Again, head over to ninababel.com/bonus to get this guide I'm making available for free for a limited time only. Anybody that has any questions, I want you to write into ask@ninababel.com. Or if it's easier, just head on over to ninababel.com and subscribe for my updates. New episodes of the Keep It 100 Girl podcast come out every Tuesday. Give me some love, Girl Circle. Please go download every Tuesday. Know that you matter and your stories matter. Subscribe, tell 2 friends, and so on. Check my vids on YouTube by typing in Nina Babel. You could also find Nina on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at NINABABEL. Again, thanks for listening to the Keep It 100 Girl podcast. Do me a fave, 2 minutes tops. Once you've had a chance to listen to my podcast, check out my iTunes page for a clickable link in the description for you to rate and review this podcast. Are you stuck? I'd love to know your feedback, so head on over to the comments section of my blog, www.ninababel.com/girlcirclemedia. I would love to know what you think. Even better, give me 5 smackaroos. That's right, 5 bright shining stars. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the Keep It 100 Girl podcast so you never, ever, ever miss one of my episodes. Tune into next week's episode where I'm going to go into relationship mode. I'm switching it up. We're going hotline bling, baby, and how we do. Let me find out. Thanks for listening, girl. I look forward to hearing your mother friggin' real stories, comments, and feedback.